Hi, my name's Adam. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining us today. Today we have a special guest in Drew Jamieson. We had Drew on about a month and a half ago talking about health. Drew is a naturopathic doctor. I've known Drew for many years. He's like a little brother to me. No, big brother. He works so much more than I do. Anyway, I wanted to bring him on today because Drew and his wife Amber have done quite a bit of traveling over the last 20 months during the pandemic. So many of you that we talk to aren't traveling for good reason, but I thought I'd bring Drew on here, just talk about his travel experience. And then as well as we're going to cover off later in this video as well, how to travel better from a doctor's perspective. What does he do? What does his wife do? Just to make travel a lot easier. So we're going to cover all of that in this video.
Thanks, Adam. So I'm Dr. Drew Jamieson. I'm a naturopathic doctor here in the Vancouver area. I have a practice in New West as well as Burnaby, and I have a clinical focus in digestive health, immune system, sports injuries, pain management, as well as IV therapies. And as Adam mentioned, I've done an extensive amount of travel over the last 20 months. So I was actually running the numbers last night with my wife. So we've left the country 5 times since November of 2020. And we've been through 11 different countries. And I won't lie, at first it was very overwhelming. Just the thought of even leaving Canada. Are they going to turn us around? Are they going to detain us? I mean, we just didn't know, right? And every time we got to an airport, we would ask like, hey, this is where we're going. This is what we know to date. Are we going to have a problem? And they kept telling us no worries. And what's cool, and one big tip we've learned is when you stay at properties that are well known, such as Marriott, good North American brands, they will help you set up the testing. So one of the biggest things people don't realize is you can just call the front desk at a lot of these places and say, hey, I have a flight in 2 or 3 days. Can you please send a doctor or a nurse to my room, charge my room, and it takes so much weight off your shoulders.
And so how much are you paying for that?
So I've added it up. We spent over $4,000 between both of us on COVID tests.
Crazy. So you're paying like 100 to 150 a test, basically?
Sometimes up to 2 or 250. So for example, in Tunisia, when we just came back from North Africa a couple months ago, that was the cheapest. It was $90.
Okay.
We've paid upwards of $250 US in some places. Maldives was 200. So we're reading travel blogs every day. We're searching flights every day. We're looking at Aeroplan points every day. It's always changing. And you need to know, like, what are the entry requirements and where can we go? Where can't we go? So you can't get too married to one specific location right now. You need to shortlist 3 to 5. And then when the time comes, about a week or 2 prior, you pull the trigger and book it. I know there might be some of you watching where it's just like, still the thought of leaving the country is very overwhelming and causing a lot of anxiety. And I don't think that feeling ever goes away. But I can say now, having done it this many times, I have a lot more confidence about it when I do. And the cool thing is most places we've been to are 70 or 80% occupied right now.
Wow.
So when people think this is the worst time to travel, we get to some of these spots and we're like, this is the best time to travel because it's not overrun. We can get a hotel reservation easily day of. We can always get a dinner reservation. The beaches aren't packed.
If you have points and you can fly, it's probably a lot more comfortable because you're not as crammed in there.
Correct.
You have more space. You have all that too. So
it felt a lot better.
If you're looking to travel, probably a good way to do it if you can afford it or if you have points or that kind of thing. So any tips and tricks on kind of make it less painful for them?
I think the easiest way to simplify it is you have to do it a time or two. Once you've done it a time or two, like anything, then it's like, okay, I've done this before, it's familiar, but you do need to do your research. So there's a few things I would really recommend you look into. One is a website on Instagram called Travel Off Path, and they give all the up-to-date information about entry requirements, restrictions, this, that, and the other. You need a good hub and home base where you're constantly keeping an eye on this stuff. There's a few YouTube bloggers I follow, Karen Nate and Gabriel Traveler, which are amazing channels to follow because these are people that travel for a living, and even through the pandemic, they're just keeping it going. Prince of Travel and Ricky, he's actually the one that put me onto this. This is an at-home rapid antigen kit. So currently right now as Canadians flying to the States, we need a negative antigen test. This satisfies it. So what this is you flip on your phone, it connects you to a nurse, they administer the test with you, they confirm your identity, and they make sure it's all done properly. And then it's guaranteed by the Canadian government when you get a negative result, you can then fly to the States with it. It also connects you to a Canadian, so you know you're kind of back home and protected that way. Because I've heard some horror stories of people going to Jamaica or Cuba, for example, and the resorts are taking advantage of tourists. So you do need to be aware of that, where they're turning back false positive tests and then subjecting them to very expensive quarantines, which could be $4,000 or $5,000 for 2 weeks.
Never thought about that.
because false positives happen.
So how much are these kits?
So that one is $80 and there's 2 antigen sets in there. Okay. So me and you could test ourselves with that for $80, so 40 each.
Yeah, cheap.
The LAMP test kits, which satisfies the PCR requirement back to Canada, is $150 per person. It's a lot more of an elaborate device.
Now I want to transition the video here to staying healthy while traveling. We'll put a link to Drew's Instagram below as well and his YouTube channel. He does a lot of great content on just how to take care of yourself. My wife and I watch it religiously. We get a lot of tips from him. A lot of our viewers, we have some younger viewers, but a lot are kind of that 45 to 65 year old. Like, what do you recommend for them and kind of help them out?
Yeah, so a lot of stuff. I could talk at length about prepping for flights because it's one of the most dehydrating and exhausting things we put our bodies through. We just really weren't evolved or meant to fly that high for that long. And so you must get fluids in your body before the flight, during, and after. It's the most important thing. That feeling that we have of jet lag is quite often dehydration. Okay, if you can't sleep on planes, I get it. I'm not great at it either, unless you have like an awesome lie down flat. It's very, very tricky. So what you need to do is, as soon as you get to that new time zone, you got to get the feet off, either put it in the sand, put it in the grass, connect yourself to nature, maybe go in the water if possible, and then you're trying to regulate your sleep ASAP. And it's best done with melatonin for a few nights if you're flying east. So if you're moving from North America over to Europe, you start taking melatonin at the new bedtime, because resetting your clock and circadian rhythm is one of the most important things. And it also leads into, the faster you get on your normal routine, the faster you'll snap out of it and feel healthy. That's things like exercise, exposing yourself to natural light early in the morning. Like I said, regulate your sleep, get the melatonin going. I always suggest people bring shelf-stable probiotics, digestive enzymes, and chewable licorice capsules when they travel. Why? Well, we're subjected to different food, different water. Quite often people get sick while traveling, or maybe they get constipation. So having magnesium and Cape aloe along would be really smart. And the digestive enzymes will help kill anything that might be bad in the food. Say it wasn't properly cooked, or it's been sitting out and it might have spoiled. You take an enzyme, it has a bit of hydrochloric acid, it'll prevent you from getting sick. And then the probiotics is just good because you're going to be subjecting yourself to different sort of types of bacteria. And then the licorice capsules are great because quite often people might have bouts of indigestion or heartburn, and this is like a natural form of Tums, so it's called glycerinated licorice capsules, and they're wonderful. I never leave home without them when I travel. Vitamin C powders, electrolyte powders, in case you maybe launch into some traveler's diarrhea and you're just like not feeling great. Yeah. Say you go to Mexico or India or something like that, it's probably bound to happen. And so having the emergency and the electrolyte powders with you mixed with water is super important. Yeah, those are kind of the main ones. Outside of things I've talked about before, testing and optimizing your vitamin D, making sure you don't have chronic inflammation going on, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Just because traveling is such a rattle to your system, and if you don't go in at 100%, then that's when things will come in. So yeah, mess you up. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, thanks for joining us today, Drew. Hopefully you guys found this helpful. Hopefully you guys took something out of it. Again, if you've done some travel, you've had some good experience or bad experience, leave a comment below. We always love to hear what you guys are going through. Help other people, help other viewers on the channel. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoy these videos, hit the thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. It costs you nothing, takes you 1 second. Thanks again, Drew, for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video.
Yeah.